This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, to use this as an educational material.
Good day, everyone. Our topic for today is to examine the concept of the self from the sociological perspective. We will explore how social interaction, cultural influences, and societal structures shape individual identity.
Audio Jungle.
Sociology is the study of human behavior. It refers to social behavior, society, patterns of social relationships, social interaction, and culture that surrounds everyday life. Before we continue our lesson, we will be understanding what sociology refers to. First, social interaction. It is how people act towards others. Next is society, a group bound by shared system and norms. Next is patterns of social relationships, established ways people connect. Social interaction, the process of engaging with others. And lastly, culture, the collective values and customs of a group. One of the pioneering contributors to sociological perspectives was Charles Cooley. He asserted that people's self-understanding is constructed in part by their perception of how others view them, a process themed the looking glass self, by Cooley in 1902.
Charles Horton Cooley used by the term of looking glass self to describe how our perception of ourselves is shaped by other interactions with other people and their opinions. Three essential steps form its foundation. Number one is imagining our appearance to others. We consider how other people perceive us, creating an impression of who we are based on their viewpoint. For example, do they see me as an confident or awkward? This is one question you may have. Number two is reading others' people's judgments. We judge how other people perceive us by their responses or an action. This entails interpreting social clues such as tone or body language and drawing judgments about how they see us. For number three, on these interpretations, we experience pride if the judgment is seen as favorable and shame if it seems to be negative. These feelings then determine how we behave in the future. Lastly, we respond to these interpretations of judgments by altering our behavior to reflect how we believe others perceive us. In the summary, the looking glass self implies that our self-concept is not only subjective, but also heavily impacted by society, since we are always in considering how other people might perceive us and evaluate us.
Theory of the Social Self, George Herbert Mead, 1863-1931. Self, from experience as we learn to interpret situations by taking on the role of the other. Children learn to do that in imitations, gestures, words, play, specific roles, games, multiple roles, generalized other, role of the group. The social aspect of self is an important distinction because other sociologists and psychologists felt that the self was based on biological factors and inherited traits. According to Mead, the self is not there from birth, but it developed over time from social experiences and activities. So, the theory of the social self suggests that our sense of who we are, ourselves, is shaped by our interactions with other people and society. We develop our identity based on how we see ourselves in others' eyes and how we respond to social expectations. In other words, we understand who we are by interacting with the people around us. The social aspect of self is important because some sociologists and psychologists believe that self was shaped by biology and inherited traits. However, Mead argued that the self is not present at birth, but develops over time through social experiences and interaction. Two sides of self, me and I. According to Mead's theory, the self has two sides or faces, me and I. The me is considered the socialized aspect of the individual. The me represents learned behaviors, attitudes, and expectations of others in the society. Two sides of self, me and I. According to Mead's theory, the self has two sides, faces, me and I. The I, therefore, can be considered the present and future phase of the self. The I represents the individual's identity based on response to the me. So the me is the socialized side representing the behaviors, attitudes, and expectations learned from others and the society. Then, the I represents the individual's personal identity based on how they respond to socialized me. It reflects the present and the future aspect of the self.
Development of self. According to Med, 3 activities develop the self. Let's start with games. Games develop self by allowing individuals to understand and adhere to the rules of the activity. Self is developed by understanding that there are rules in which one must be abide by in order to win the game or be successful at an activity. So, example, games help us develop our sense of self because they teach us to follow rules and work with others. For example, in a basketball game, you need to understand the rules and also think about how your teammate and opponents will act. This helps us learn how to fit into a group and understand what's expected of us. Games show us how to cooperate and play fair, which helps us grow as individuals. Next is language. Language develops self by allowing individuals to respond to each other through symbols, gestures, words, and sounds. Language helps us communicate and understand each other using words, gesture, and sounds. For example, you ask someone, "How are you?" You're starting a connection through language. We are not only share ideas but also learn about how others see us. This helps us shape our identity and understand the world around us better. And finally, we have play. Play develops self by allowing individuals to take on different roles, pretend, and express expectations of others. It develops one's self-consciousness through role-playing.
Agents of socialization. Family. The primary function of the family is to reproduce society both biologically through procreation and socially through socialization. Given this function, the individual experience of his or her family shifts over time. Example, family as an agent of socialization. When a child is born, they are immediately influenced by their family members, particularly their parents and close relatives. This early socialization is crucial in shaping the child's behavior, values, and understanding of the world. Like language development. From the moment a child is born, they begin learning language by listening to their parents or caregivers. These socializations allows the child to communicate, express their needs, and understands others. Like a child will learn to say please and thank you because their parents model and reinforce their polite behaviors. And that's all. Thank you.
Agents of socialization. Peer group. The influence of the peer group typically peaks during adolescence. Peer group generally only affect on a short-term interest, unlike family, which has long-term influence. Agents of socialization, these are the people, groups, and institutions that shape our values, beliefs, and behaviors throughout our lives. Examples: family, school, peers, media, religion, workplace, and etc. Influence peak during adolescence. During adolescence, individuals tend to spend more time with their peers and seek their approval and acceptance. This leads to a strong influence on their attitude, behaviors, and identity formation. While the peers can significantly influence an individual's short-term interests like fashion, music, and hobbies, their impact as long-term values and belief tends to be less significant than that of the family.
Hi, I'm Kyle Cano. Let's talk about how religion helps shape us all. Religion is one way we learn how to act, what to believe, and what's important in life. Religion teaches us values like being kind, honest, or helping others. For many of us, it starts with our family. Parents often pass down their beliefs by taking kids to religious practices, services, and praying together, or celebrating holidays. These practices become part of who we are. For example, going to church or celebrating a holiday teaches kids about tradition and gives them a sense of belonging. Religion also helps people learn the difference between right and wrong, guiding decisions in daily life over time. This teaching shapes how we think, act, and connect with others. Religion isn't just about belief. It helps build our identity and show us how to live in society. So religion plays a big role in shaping who we are and how we learn about the world.
Schools as an agent of socialization. Schools are social agencies that are created with an aim of enhancing the processes of socialization. As an agent of socialization, a school contributes towards the process of creating a social self as an individual. A school is a man-made institution that is formulated for the purposes of transmitting culture, thereby aiding in socialization. So why school is an agent of socialization? Because attending school has a significant impact on learners, including introducing them to a mostly interactive universe. And also, it offers specific examples of how it influences our behaviors, interactions, and the society as a whole. And school is a vital in determining on how we communicate with each other because it introduces us our languages. And schools are responsible for formalizing this process. For instance, school teaches languages in a manner that bridges the disparities between various societies and dialects.
Collective self. In collectivist cultures, identify comes from being part of a group, like family or a team. The group's success ensures individual well-being. Harmony and interdependence are important. Group members are close to each other but distant from outsiders. These traits are common in women and rural areas. Individual self. In individualist cultures, people focus on their own needs first. Independence and self-reliance are highly valued. Groups are optional and not essential for identity or success. These traits are common in men and urban areas. The text highlights the contrast between collective self and individual self, which are influenced by cultural values and societal settings. In collectivist cultures, identify is deeply tied to group members, prioritizing harmony, interdependence, and the well-being of the group. This perspective is prevalent in rural areas and among women, emphasizing the importance of close-knit relationships. Conversely, in individualist cultures, identify centers on personal interdependence and self-reliance, which less dependence on group affiliation. These traits are more common in urban settings and among men. reflecting a focus on personal goals and autonomy. This distinction shows how cultural and environmental factors shape individuals' values, behaviors, and sense of identity. Understanding these differences is important for fostering effective communication and cooperating in diverse settings, as it helps bridge gaps between varying perspectives and priorities.
Audio Jungle.